RP X, RP Peep, RP Mac. You ain't having no relax, this shit got me tearing up.
What's good, y'all? I'm Jared today. About to check out 10 Times WWE Wrestlers who broke down crying. A wrestler crying in the ring can mean anything. He can be retiring, he could have an injury, he could be announcing his injury or his retirement in front of a live audience, and because of the audience reaction can move him so well to the point where he starts crying. Sometimes when somebody dies, like when Eddie Guerrero died and Chris Benoit died, a couple wrestlers broke down during that time. When Edge announced his retirement, he was crying, he broke down, and he had another retirement episode on SmackDown, and a lot of wrestlers were crying after the show. Just, man, nothing wrong with a wrestler crying, man. When Roman Reigns announced his leukemia diagnosis, Seth Rollins actually broke down on camera on live TV and cried about that. So let's check out other wrestlers who cried in the ring, who broke down crying as well.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Now, as we all know, wrestling is supposed to make fans feel all sorts of emotions. The happiness of Daniel Bryan winning the world title at WrestleMania 30 to the sheer devastation of Edge's initial retirement in 2011.
But I have to retire.
When Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero hugged in WrestleMania 20, they both broke down in the ring.
Aren't exclusive to wrestling fans. Over the years, wrestlers themselves have found it extremely hard to keep their emotions in check and have found themselves in an emotional place on WWE television.
Ric Flair 2008, before he retired and after he retired.
Superstars who couldn't hold back the tears.
Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair cried in their ring
Be sure to subscribe and
in
hit
that match, after the match.
for daily wrestling videos.
Yeah.
Number 1,
Becky
Becky
Lynch.
Lynch, the Raw following Money in the Bank 2020. Despite 2020 being a really negative year in the terms of world affairs, the WWE has had their fair share of positive moments. This was seen on the Raw following the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch came down to the ring to address the audience at home, saying that she had an announcement to make. She then asked the Women's Money in the Bank winner Asuka to come down. He then followed it up by telling Asuka and the audience at home that she was going to be a mom. Becky had maintained her man character up until she revealed her pregnancy to Asuka, where she completely lost it and was overwhelmed with emotion and started to cry before being comforted by Asuka. It was one of the most overwhelming moments of 2020. Number 2, Drake Maverick gets an NXT deal. The story of former 205 Live General Manager Drake Maverick is one of the more feel-good stories of 2020. As you might have known, Maverick was a part of the mass cuts WWE made to talents in April due to COVID-19. In response to the many cuts, Maverick uploaded a video where he broke down on the camera and explained how it's been his dream to wrestle in the WWE, and he was nothing but grateful.
They can motivate the younger guys.
Drake at that point, as they included him in the Cruiserweight title tournament whilst wrestling as an unsigned talent. However, during the tournament, Maverick impressed the WWE so much that in the finals, Triple H appeared on stage and greeted Maverick with an NXT contract. Now, it's unclear if Maverick knew that this was going to happen, but judging by his reaction when he saw Triple H in the contract, he completely broke down and the moments of built-up emotion all flooded out at once. Number 3, Ricochet breaks down after his final NXT match. Ricochet spent a year in the NXT brand, but during his time there he had several memorable feuds with the likes of Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream, and even won the NXT North American title. It was certainly clear that his NXT run meant a lot to him and the NXT fans. However, at the start of 2019, WWE decided to call Ricochet and Aleister Black up to the main roster, meaning their time in NXT was coming to a close. Their last match would be at NXT TakeOver New York, where the two men would come up short against the War Raiders. But following the match, the two men received a standing ovation from the crowd as the two bowed in front of the audience. And Black maintained his dark, mysterious character and managed to contain his emotions. Ricochet, however, was unable to hold it in and burst into tears due to the love and admiration shown by the live audience. Number 4, Ric Flair breaks down after WrestleMania 24.
He did.
In November of 2007, WWE began a storyline which involved Ric Flair and the stipulation.
Ric Flair is very emotional when it comes to wrestling, and he always cries, especially when it's got something to do with Charlotte these days.
Over the next few months, Flair beat the likes of Randy Orton and Triple H until the story culminated at WrestleMania 24. At the Showcase of the Immortals, Flair would face Shawn Michaels in a featured match which would end up being Flair's last WWE match ever. The match was acclaimed by fans as it was truly Flair's best match in at least a decade. Following the match though, Flair would sit in the ring and would begin to break down and cry with the realization that his WWE career was officially over. As the crowd erupted for the legendary talent, Flair greeted his family at ringside as the entire Flair family shared a special moment that they will remember forever. Number 5, Trish Stratus at Unforgiven 2006.
That's her last
In the
match.
summer of 06, Trish Stratus decided it was finally time to retire and pursue other projects. So it was only appropriate that Trish's last match would be against arch-rival Lita in a pay-per-view showdown for the women's title in Toronto at the Unforgiven pay-per-view. To many people's surprise, Trish was actually allowed to win the match and retire as women's champion. Following the match, Trish received a standing ovation from everyone in the crowd, and even JR and Jerry Lawler stood up and showed respect for the legendary talent. Trish went from corner to show respect and love to the fans before she completely broke down and burst into tears. The moment was made even more emotional when the camera cut to announcer Lillian Garcia, who was also crying her eyes out at ringside. Number 6, Xavier Woods at WrestleMania 35. The Kofi Mania storyline was one of the most acclaimed storylines that WWE has done for a number of years. The story centered on Kofi Kingston trying to overcome every obstacle to finally win the WWE title. The payoff would finally come at WrestleMania 35 when Kofi defeated Daniel Bryan to win the WWE title, becoming the first ever African-born WWE champion in company history. The win meant a lot to not only him, but the fans and other wrestlers, and most notably his New Day teammates. Following Kofi's win, the New Day celebrated in the ring with Kofi's son before Xavier Woods couldn't keep it together and let the tears flow during the special moment.
For everything this man has gone through, Kofi, it was
That was a great moment right there. I still gotta clap.
Applaud them for that. Kofi's WWE title with saying, "I've never felt emotions like this in my entire career. Kofi did it. We all did it." Tonight, a previously closed off part of the WWE.
That was a goal of Xavier Woods. His goal was to always win the King of the Ring tournament and crown Kofi as WWE champion.
Number 7, Seth Rollins after Roman Reigns' announcement.
I said that at the beginning of the video right here, when Seth broke down crying.
To announce that his leukemia had returned after 11 years. Reigns announced that he was surrendering the Universal title, and he wasn't sure.
I thought Roman was going to retire, man. After this, I thought he wasn't going to come back at all.
Emotional and upsetting segments in the history of Raw, and Reigns somehow managed to keep his composure during the segment and not get upset. Rollins was noticeably sobbing as the emotion poured out of him on live television, just like it did out of many people at home and in the arena on that night. Number 8, Edge's retirement speech. Edge delivered an emotional speech reflecting on his career and the highs and lows of wrestling. He told the audience that he had felt numbness in his arms. He passed basic strength tests prior to WrestleMania and his match with Alberto Del Rio, but WWE had urged him for further testing, and an MRI result was now forcing him to retire indefinitely. He was diagnosed with cervical spinal stenosis, and medical professionals would not clear him to compete for risk of neck-down paralysis or even death. This naturally tore Edge apart as he broke down when delivering the shocking.
As 22 to still to this day.
Almost a decade later, Edge will get the all clear from the
Still
doctors,
to this
but
day.
able to finish his WWE
Putting on great matches. I can't even talk.
at the 2020 Royal Rumble.
Putting on great
Number
matches.
9, The Undertaker during Ric Flair's tribute show. As we previously mentioned at WrestleMania 24, Ric Flair competed in his last match in the WWE ring, and naturally WWE wanted to pay tribute to one of the greatest of all time. The tribute itself would come in the form of one of the greatest segments in the history of Raw. It involved Ric Flair being endorsed and greeted by almost every member of the roster, as well as his family, whilst he stood in the ring crying his eyes out. However, one of the more famous moments of the segment occurred after the show. In a WWE.com exclusive video, The Undertaker came out to the ring, hugged the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and did his signature pose while gesturing towards the 16-time world champion. The Undertaker then stood with the rest of the roster and clapped for Flair. The Undertaker at one point wiped the tears from his eye as the emotion of the evening just got the better of him. At number 10, Vince McMahon breaks down when discussing The Undertaker. Vince McMahon has cried
When was
multiple
this?
times on WWE television. However, all of these have been with the narrative of the show and have not been down to real, genuine emotion. But this all changed when the WWE Network released The Undertaker: The Last Ride documentary series. It allowed us to take a look at the man behind The Undertaker, Bob Calloway, for the first time ever. As well as The Undertaker breaking kayfabe in the series, it features many WWE stars breaking away from their character and talking as their real-life selves. In episode 2 of the documentary, the production crew asked Vince McMahon what The Undertaker meant to him. McMahon began to cry and declared, "You can't do that." It was a touching moment that showed the true connection between the two men and showed the vulnerable side of McMahon that fans had never been able to see before. Well, there you have it, guys. 10 WWE superstars who couldn't hold back the tears for real in the ring. We're obviously missing out the more notable ones of where superstars have passed away, but we don't want to include those out of respect. As always, be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.
Alright, y'all, man. Like I said at the beginning of the video, every time a wrestler cries or breakdown in the ring, it comes after somebody retiring or somebody passed away or an injury. They had to announce an injury or retirement or something like that. And man, he left out Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit breakdown crying in 2004 after Chris's WrestleMania 20 win. Edge crying on SmackDown following his retirement announcement, and just the list goes on and on and on. And thank y'all for watching me. I love y'all. See y'all next time. Peace.